There probably isn't anyone in the music business or aficionado of music that doesn't know R.E.M. and how Bertis Downs became their manager, lawyer, and protector. Bertis Downs came to Athens, Georgia, after attending Davidson College in North Carolina and studying and doing some shifts on WFAE as a DJ. And he says playing the Allman Brothers a lot. Once graduating from the UGA Law School, he and Bill Berry, who knew each other, and Peter Buck, who he knew, and Wuxtries started playing around together and talking about this music that they were playing. And he finally began doing some of the things just to help out, which of course led to being their manager and taking care of a lot of the legal stuff that the band shouldn't have to take. He traveled all over the world with R.E.M. Bertis wrote a series of postcards from whichever city they were in, and they told about certain things that happened during the day, where they went, where they ate, just to kind of bring the fans into what was happening. It really contributed to so much of the history of this iconic band. Although the band amicably stopped touring in 2011, Berta still works with them in some of their special projects. The cover band that is becoming also very iconic out there in the world. And he's also works for charity, special events, he fights for education, and other many projects. Hear ye, my conversation with Bertis Downs. Well, welcome to Athcast Music, Bertis. I'm so happy that you're here because I've nagged you unrelentlessly. So I'm really glad you're here and
Good
to
to be here.
talk
Thank you.
about you and your days here and what it's like being here. I mean, we're going to talk about several things here. So kind
Okay.
of, but I'd like to start before we even get into any REM or bands or anything like that. And let's talk a little bit about Bertis and see who you really are and get to talk about how your life has been and I know that you are the fourth.
I'm the extra. I'm
Y-
the helper.
You're the
Yeah.
Bertis Downs the fourth.
Oh, I'm the fourth. Yes, I'm the fourth. There was a great grandfather, a grandfather, and a father, all of with the same name as me, and I'm the fourth. Correct.
Well, because my grandson is the only son of an only son of an only son of an only son of an only son. I think it's five. Well, we don't number them and name them names. What happened there? What was the whole thing about everybody
Well,
doing
just
the
the
one,
oldest
two,
son.
three,
In the
four?
case of my family, there was a Bertis Downs. He had a son named Bertis Downs that he named after him, but then he had another son as well. And then, so the oldest sons seemed to get the name Bertis, and I was the oldest son of my generation.
But is it a Southern thing? Is it just I
I
mean,
mean, I
some
don't know.
some
It's
people do it and some people don't. I never know why.
I don't know. We were from West Virginia, so I guess that's a border state. We were certainly not well off, our family, but West Virginia, heart of Appalachia. So no, it
Yeah.
wasn't anything. I don't know. I don't know where it came from, but I know it's the fourth, and I know it messes me up at airports because Delta thinks my name is Downsiv, Downsiv.
Oh
And
gosh.
between the passport, the global entry, and the driver's license, and I wish it was just Bertis Downs.
No,
I've actually thought about going up to the courthouse and changing my name to
I
just
wish my
Bertis
name was
Downs.
Marlene Stewart
Yeah,
instead of Marlene Sokol Stewart. That was a hyphenated name, and Social Security dropped it. So now my last name is Sokol Space Stewart,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it drives them crazy
yeah,
as well. So,
yeah.
but there's no fifth.
No,
Okay.
we had girls, and I wasn't going to saddle a girl with that name, and I wouldn't have anyway.
No.
No,
Okay. Okay. Well, you said you were from West Virginia, but didn't you start in Montgomery?
Montgomery, West Virginia is the
Montgomery,
town.
West
Yeah,
Virginia. Yeah.
yeah, that's the town I was born in. I lived there for the first 4 years of my life. My dad was a missionary in Taiwan, and grew up suburbs of Atlanta, uh, college in North Carolina, and then really about 2/3 of my life I've been here. I've been here since I was 22
Yeah. But
when I moved here right out of college.
I saw that your father was a Presbyterian
Yep.
minister, and your mom was very active
Yeah,
with
they
this
were both
church as
missionaries,
well.
and when missionaries go out, at least in those days, they're couples, the father and the mother, yeah.
Well, you had to be really young when you went to
Yeah,
Taipei.
4, 4.
Do you remember anything
Yeah,
about that and how
yeah.
it impacted your childhood or your
Spoke Chinese,
wow.
for the first few years. I mean, I was in a Chinese kindergarten in 1st and 2nd grade, and
Did you carry it through your life? Those memories if
yeah,
you had I
yeah,
mean, probably not as many as you
yeah, you're a little kid,
yeah,
but
you
yeah,
4 I mean, I do have
yeah,
memories when I'm 4.
yeah,
So,
yeah. That's
yeah.
kinda the beginning of your conscious
Yeah,
memory,
and I think it
probably.
probably we always say that it's in our conscious and
Yeah.
subconscious and
It didn't
all
seem like anything special to us getting on a ship and going to Taiwan. We didn't know everybody didn't do that. But looking back on it, obviously, it's a pretty unique childhood. It's unusual to get to have that kind of experience. Taiwan was a very different place then than it is now in the early 1960s. It was still very much a developing country. It had only in the last just over 10 years broken away from mainland China, communist China.
yeah.
So Taiwan was this kind of experiment little island, and it was a yeah. I mean, I didn't take as much in as I would if I was back there as an adult, and I have been back once as an adult in 1995, but that's the only time.
What an experience though, even for a 4-year-old, I mean, to have that. Um, we not only have birthdays almost exactly a month apart, but we also have a little bit of a traumatic experience together. You were 8 in 1964 when your dad passed,
Yeah.
and I was 8 in
Wow.
1964 when my mom passed.
Wow. Yeah.
And I know that I have what I call these little video snippets about my mom, that and sometimes I'll get a new one, but not very often. The same ones always seem to appear. Do you have those? And can you talk about your dad a
Mm,
little bit? And
Well, a lot of what I remember about my dad are probably just pictures that are around the house that I still see and
mhm.
stories, and I do have some memories of him and I guess I never thought of them as video snippets, but yeah, I guess so. And I was there right up till that summer of 7th grade, and then we went back for 1 year when I was in 5th grade. I guess that's when I was 10 years old. So I have been there more recently than when I first went. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's something that affects your life the rest of your life. I mean, you don't really ever get over that kind of thing. You just you live with it, and um, in my case, I had 2 little brothers and a mom who did a great job raising us under the
Did you become
circumstances.
kind of the man of the house or
Well, that was the term used. It wasn't a great term for a little kid,
I know.
but I was the oldest, and I was the oldest. I had his name, and I had one brother 2 years younger than me, and one brother who was still a baby when he died. So, who's now almost my age. It's remarkable how much closer we are now that
Yeah.
those 7 years make less difference up in our 60s.
Well, you can imagine with a family of 10
Yeah.
how
Wow.
differently it affected
No kidding.
each one of us. My twin and I were the ninth and 10th, as I was saying, and we were in our own little world
Right.
already. So
Right.
we have been very fortunate that it didn't affect us as much as many of my other siblings.
Yeah.
And I can remember that night. I mean, out of 10 children, I was there in her arms. She passed. In
Oh,
my arms,
wow.
she passed.
Wow.
And everybody just goes, "Oh my gosh, that must be so bad," and everything. But I felt so special
Yeah.
that I was one
Yeah.
out of 10 children to be
Yeah.
there. And that's the way I've always looked at
Yeah.
death,
Yeah.
and in that way, that it's special to have known that person, special to have lived their, a nice friendship or a sisterhood or whatever. And I continue from that
Yeah.
death,
I believe
from
it.
that.
And I imagine your older siblings probably looked after the 2 of you, the babies or whatever. You had obviously a big range in age, I'm sure, so they
Yeah,
would have been
16 years,
different capabilities of, caring for you and making sure you're okay and
as well as your
getting there.
siblings too.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
you
mine
know,
were younger, so I was
yes,
more
I know. Well, I
but
know.
anyway, yeah, you
Well,
you
don't get me
bond as a
wrong.
you bond as a family, no
We took
question.
care of ourselves for a long time.
Yeah.
Everybody split.
Yeah. Yeah.
After you went to Davidson
Mm.
and did your little stint there, you graduated from there, and you were a DJ.
Yeah, my first year in particular, I was right out of high school. I was really into the Allman Brothers Band. That was kind of my favorite band from high school days, and kind of had a DJ shift, and I prided myself on only playing Allman Brothers songs the entire year. So anybody who liked the Allman Brothers, they would listen to my show. Anybody who didn't like the Allman Brothers, they had other things they could do, even in those days. So yeah, I had a little. It was called WDAV. It was a typical, not unlike WUOG.
Right.
WDAV now is a big classical NPR station, but in those days it was really truly a student-run radio station, and you kind of got your shift of airtime. I think it was a 2-hour show, and from 4 to 6 on that
Yeah.
day, that was your 2 hours. So that was fun. And I was also got involved in the university, or it wasn't a university, it was a college, the college union,
Hmm.
which brought shows to campus.
Yeah.
So I got involved in that and kind of the nitty gritty of what it takes to uh, bring shows to campus, deal with security, deal with the agents, how the whole process works. And so yeah, I did those things while I was in school. I was also
I
a
mean, you
history
kind of
major
fell
and,
into
and wanted
that.
to go into law school. Well, it was very much just an extracurricular activity when I was in college. I was studying hard and keeping my grades up and hoping to go to law school, and eventually did go to law school. But yeah, I certainly was interested in music as a fan, as somebody who read um, about my favorite bands, wore T-shirts about my favorite bands. I was definitely traveled concerts. I would drive to Charlotte for festivals or other places. I didn't ever go to any of the really huge, legendary ones because they were a little bit before my time. By the time I got to college, I started in the fall of 1974. So
We're the same
yeah, yeah, you
age.
said that
Yeah.
yeah,
So we're kind of on the same.
contemporaries. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
contemporary like on the end of the real
Mhm.
big '60s
Like,
and
Woodstock would have been when I was in about the 7th or 8th grade,
me.
and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't have anybody to
Exactly.
take me to
Yeah.
New York. I doubt I would have even known about it or have heard of those bands. It was just not my world at that point. We had just moved back from Taiwan, and I didn't get into music really till it was more like in college, high school and college.
Well, y- you had to have had so many things going through your head, leaving Davidson and trying to figure out you're going to go to law school at UGA. And did you know you were going to be a lawyer for entertainment and
No,
music?
I was interested in it. I was always, even as early as college, I knew it'd be kind of neat to get a law degree and to be able to do music, entertainment, whatever that was. Um, didn't really even identify that as especially what I really came to law school to do. I thought about um, I really went here to become a legal aid, legal services, that kind of lawyer. We didn't use the term in those days, but social justice. I really the kind of we have tons of clinical programs now at UGA Law. We did not when I was here. There were only a couple. You either did public defender work or you worked for the DA, the prosecutor. Those are the only two choices. And I did work for a semester in the public defender's office, but I thought I wanted to do that. But I got out my third year of law school was 1980. I graduated law school in 81, and that's the fall that Reagan got elected, and therefore their cuts,
Yeah.
makes what's going on now look pretty mild pretty severe by comparison. But there were
Yes.
a lot of cuts, there were a lot of hiring freezes, and people weren't hiring in that area. But the law school had a need for somebody to teach research and writing, and I'd done reasonably well in law school to the point where they asked if I wanted to take that job, and I was like, sure. I mean, we'd pay the rent. It was a good way to stay in Athens. It was it was interesting to me. I had a real hang up about public speaking. I really didn't like public speaking. I really got nervous. I got super anxious whenever I got called on in class, both in college and in law school. And so I decided to do the job because I needed a job. It would let me stay in
Mhm.
Athens
Yeah.
and it would make me conquer this fear of public speaking. I haven't completely conquered it yet. I still don't necessarily love it. I sometimes still have anxiety attacks when I give some kind of a big speech with the lights on and all. But um, it I really enjoyed it. I still maintain friendships and uh, with some of the students I've had over the years, and I taught a bunch in the '80s in the research and writing field, and then in the next 22 years after that, I taught the entertainment law class at Georgia, starting in '88.
Yeah. Right. I wonder when you did that.
Yeah, that was a
Um,
little later once we'd gotten
weren't you
going, and
already kind of looking towards some of the civil rights things? Didn't you? Weren't you already kind of starting some of that before you got to UGA
well,
in North Carolina?
I worked in a prison in North Carolina, and I worked in a jail in Atlanta, at the Fulton County Jail, actually, um, for summer jobs. I
That
worked
was your
summer
summer
jobs.
job.
Yep, yep. It was a recreation program at the Fulton County Jail, and it was a It was a real learning
Oh, I
experience. I
bet it
learned a
was.
ton, things I had never imagined or thought about or had any clue about, just in terms of how, other people's lives. And I'd grown up in, you know, Clarkston, Georgia, which is right outside of Atlanta, uh, and gone to DeKalb County High School and off to Davidson. Fulton County Jail was a real experience. It was three friends from Davidson and myself, and we put in a recreation program. It was real
That's
interesting. Yeah,
wonderful. That
yeah.
that was a
So
young
that got me
age.
kind of on a
Yeah.
track toward thinking that's the kind of work I would like to do. And I clerked for one summer up in D.C. Uh, with the Department of Commerce, and then right out of law school, after 2 years, I did a clerkship up in D.C. for a federal judge, 83, 84. So that's basically my. But
Damn.
then, other than that, I've been in Athens ever
I
since.
mean,
So in a
shit.
sense, I've been in Athens ever since '78.
I'm impressed. I'm gonna just say that because I sort of makes me feel like you have this purpose-driven life, and I don't even really know that book, but I know what
Yeah,
purpose-driven life means. And it seems like you've had a pretty good hold on that most of your life. That you didn't really say, "Ah, what the hell am I gonna do now?"
yeah,
I mean, you seem to have figured it out at a very, very early age. So, well, here we get to the fork in the road
sure.
of less traveled, and that's when you leave there. Um, how did you know what you were walking into when you got to Athens? Did you have any idea about the music that was coming out of here? That people were starting to play me. I mean, even when you got here, 74, that's
No, I got
early.
here in '78.
78. Oh, I'm sorry.
College was
You went to
'74.
college. Yeah.
Here was
Sorry.
'78. And yeah, I guess the music was kind of starting, but I didn't have very much awareness of it at the beginning. I was not around for the early B-52 stuff or Pylon. I mean, if it was going on, I was studying at the law school. First year of law school, especially, it's
Hmm.
pretty intense workload. You're studying all the time.
Yeah.
By the time you get to second, third year, maybe you start going out on weekends and seeing shows. And by then, this new band that had started up spring of my second year of law school, R.E.M. had started, and I knew a couple of the guys, Peter from the record store, Bill from the concert committee at the University Union
Oh, so
at
you 2 did
UGA.
that
So I
together
knew
too.
those
Yeah.
guys, and I knew they'd started a band, and everybody was talking about how good they were because they wrote such good songs. And I went and saw them, and they were right. They already had really good songs, and you know, to this day. I mean, they always, whenever the four of them would get together, they'd come up with a whole batch of new songs, and that was just going on for the first couple of years. Is very exciting, but that wasn't right when I got here. That was definitely a couple of
Yeah.
years into it.
Yeah. So you really didn't have an inclination of anything like that.
No,
But
because I just didn't
what
keep those
made you
hours.
decide to start like, "Hey, I can do this for you"?
Uh,
I mean, did
just
they
trying to help out,
yeah,
trying
I
to,
mean, just being
I
a
was somebody
buddy?
they knew in law school, and um, certainly didn't claim any particular expertise, but I went to I learned it partly by doing, partly by studying it, going to seminars, going to things in Atlanta, at Emory, or I think one of the things I went to was at Georgia State. Another one I went to in New York. I had good mentors, one of whom taught that program, the Practicing Law Institute. So I kind of was somebody who was learning on my way up with the guys, growing up with them. But I certainly didn't think I could do it all myself. I needed help from people who had, knew the ropes,
Yeah.
and would help me learn as we went.
When you started traveling with REM, how fast did that start? I mean, how fast did it
Well,
develop?
I was working mainly at the law school in all through the '80s, and then in the early '90s they didn't tour at all. They didn't tour from '89 to '95. Happened to be their two biggest records. Out of Time came out in '91. Automatic for the People came out in '92. Neither of those records had a tour. They both had some promotional things like doing Saturday Night Live, like doing Mountain Stage, some BBC stuff, some other things in Europe. So there were ways for the band to get out on TV, on media outlets, doing interviews to let people know the record was up. But they weren't doing a full on tour because they'd done full on tours through the '80s and they were tired of it. They were,
Mhm.
just they didn't feel like it was sustainable to keep going at that pace, to be gone from home that long. And so they just decided we're going to make great records and we're going to put them out. And as it turned out, it was a brilliant strategy not touring. It wasn't planned that way. But by the time they did tour in '95, it was there was a lot of pent up demand. They
Yeah.
had they had a brand new record out called Monster.
I
They had the two
sold
records.
our stores sold
Yeah, yeah,
a shit ton
yeah. So
of it.
in
So,
'95 is when I guess I
yeah,
first
then
went
we
out on.
sold a lot of records. We sold a lot of records. I have an autographed Green album,
Oh, wow, that's fun.
but I'm not sure how I got it. Um, it I it wouldn't have been from an in-store, so it must have been the label sent us autographed
Nice,
albums. That's all I
nice.
can figure.
Yeah, yeah.
And it hangs up with my new one. I sent you a picture of the new one I found of
Oh, yeah,
this lithograph,
yeah,
which I really just love it,
yeah.
and I don't know any of the history of it. I almost brought it today to show it to you, but I already sent you the picture.
If it's the picture, I think it was taken at the Globe. If it's the picture I'm thinking of, it might have been taken at the Globe.
Well, it's a lithograph,
Yeah,
and so I don't know,
yeah.
but I just hung it up on my wall the other day.
Good,
Finally,
good.
um, when when you were traveling, you did so many things with them when they really hit the road. I was reading some of your postcards.
Yeah.
They were so cool.
Well, that
It
was just when you start a website, you got to feed the monster.
Yeah,
You got to have something new on it most of the time. And so the little postcard from the road became just a little convention of a way to do like a diary entry
but it was fun
into
to
what's
read.
going on. Well, it was
It
fun. It
really
was fun to
was.
write. It kept me kind of like, okay, this is what you try to do it in a way that wasn't just boring, but would throw in little anecdotes or tidbits about friends who were visiting or somebody's birthday or just some of the stuff that was going on the road beyond just it was a great show and they encored with these songs. um, so I tried to put the right amount of detail in it, and I never made myself write every single day, but it was nice to, especially after we're in a place like Turkey that we only got to one time,
Yeah, wow.
or South Africa that we only got to one time. Those were some. If I hadn't written all those things down, I wouldn't remember them as well. Did you find those on the website
I
or on?
did.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
good.
I do a
A lot of research,
lot
yeah.
of
Yeah,
research because um, I really do. I'm an outsider. I tell everybody this on my podcast. I'm an outsider. I'm not an insider.
right.
And that was my hook, I guess, or whatever, to do this podcast, is because I could not figure out what the hell happened here.
Right,
Like, I didn't know. All of a sudden, people are telling me about this person,
right,
and Bloodkin, and five
right.
eight, and Elephant Six. I didn't know any of
Yeah,
that.
there's a lot of history there.
So my thing was, okay, let's bring the world into Athens
Yeah, here's some of the stories.
and hear some of the
Yeah,
stories
yeah,
and document it. And it doesn't matter to me necessarily that I'm doing a good job, a bad job, or whatever. It's fun for me. I love doing it,
yeah,
and I love that it's going to be there for a while.
yeah. Right,
I
right.
really
It's
do.
for further research. Yeah,
So, so you're a lawyer by trade, within your community, and I have to assume you love being a lawyer by heart, in your
yeah,
heart.
yeah,
That's something that has stayed in your heart for a long
yeah.
time, and that
The education to be a lawyer, the thinking like a lawyer, analyzing, figuring out how to solve problems. Both, I think, the liberal arts education that I got at Davidson and the legal education I got at Georgia, both of those just kind of give you a decent framework for sizing up a situation and uh, what's the best step by step. How do we figure this out? How
what's
do we?
next.
Yeah, yeah, that,
My husband asks me that all the time.
yeah,
What's next?
yeah.
Think about what's next. Um, I'm going to touch on your political thing because you know that I follow you on Facebook and everything. Um, when I read your opinions, which I'm not going to lie, I soak them up. I do.
Yeah.
I really love reading them. And the articles and the events you pass along. I don't know if this is going to be weird or not, but I get a sense that um, your father's preaching is right there by your side
I don't know. Never.
because he had something to say. He
Yeah.
had the sermons, and it was about, bringing love and religion and faith and everything together. And I feel like you're giving a little bit of a sermon on the mount too, not necessarily religiously, but
yeah,
politically.
yeah, maybe. I've never thought of it that way, but
Well,
I
see, I
did
can't
think
wear blue.
I did find out in my 30s. I talked to his parents. Um, I was very close to my grandparents who had lost their son when he was, so young,
Hmm.
and I guess I might even been in my 40s. It was later in life for me, and I'd always wondered how my dad felt about civil rights, because he was raised in a very conservative Republican mountain red state background. And
Hmm.
his parents voted Republican all their life. They would have voted for Trump. I mean, they're not still around,
I
but
still
I'm
have
sure they
family
would have.
members. Trust
And
me.
um, and my dad, I'd always wondered how did he feel about because he went off to college in the early '50s. That was, in fact, he got out of college the year before Brown versus Board of Education, right around the time of the integration of the armed services,
Hmm.
Truman, and that was his era for the age I had been. And I just wondered where did he come down on this? What was he a conservative, racist, or was he somebody who wanted to see integration and equal justice and all that? And they confirmed to me that he was in fact on what I consider the right side, what they considered the wrong side. They said we used to have lots of arguments with him about it. We were very upset about it, but that made me feel really good to know
Do you
that
know
my
what I
dad
did the
had.
same? I do the
Yeah,
same thing about my mother because I didn't really know
right,
her,
right,
and I know that she was a voracious reader. She was very eccentric. She had 10 kids. She didn't drive. She didn't cook. She stayed
wow,
up all night reading.
wow,
Atlas Shrugged was one of her favorite books.
right,
And that's how I know a little bit about her. And of course, the older siblings tell me stories,
right,
um, although that's slipping away here too.
right,
But
right.
I know
Yeah,
what that's like to think about. Well, what would she say right now?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting. But I do love that you are very thoughtful
Yeah, I try not
about
to.
what you print
Yeah,
and what you talk about, and try and get people to listen and say, "This is a really good article. You should listen to it or read it."
yeah, yeah. Well,
And,
thanks. I try not to waste anybody's time. I mean, I try to if I pass it on, um, I
I
try to
don't
make
think you're
sure.
wasting
And did you
anybody's
know
time.
that there's this whole thing there? If you just post a link on Facebook, it rarely gets it rarely gets shown to people. But if you post that little silly colored square with a few words on it, as long as they don't have some trigger words in them,
Yeah.
and then put a little arrow like
Yes.
first comment,
I noticed you did.
that's how people see your stuff. It is hilarious. It's like you'd think that Facebook would have figured that out. Did y'all know that? It's this weird thing where if you just post the link, Facebook's like, some political person posted a link. We're not going to show that to very many people. But if you post a little thing that's kind of conversational and like, this is pretty interesting, and you
And
try
he's
to come
always
up with, but
the
you
the
don't want
arrow
to use the
down.
T word or anything or the R word. You don't want to use any things that might appear political. But yeah, it does. It's amazing how many more people. I've experimented by posting it both ways. I'll post the link and then I'll do one of the little box with colors with just a phrase or two with the link in the first
Yeah.
comment. 10 to 1 more people see the one.
I'm gonna start.
Yeah. It's the way to get
I
people
mean,
to
I
really see
noticed
what
it,
you're
but I
it's the
didn't
way to get the
really
people to
know
see what
why
you
you did it,
yeah. Well, I do it
other
because
than,
you get more
"Oh,
people to
he's"
actually read it because
well, now
Facebook
we all
shows it
know.
to them. Facebook
Although, I'm
it'll
not
probably
sure
stop
that these
working
girls
tomorrow.
do
I mean,
Facebook.
yeah, they
They
probably
do
don't do Facebook.
Instagram
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
TikTok and,
yeah. Stuff we've never heard
Snapchat
of.
and all that
Yeah,
things, and so, yeah. Um, that's so funny.
yeah.
So, I see that your relationship with I work for Troy, so that's where I
Oh, yeah.
met you in person
Yeah, right.
the other night.
At the,
Uh,
Foundry
yes,
or what,
and I see
Rialto. Yep,
yeah, the Rialto.
yep,
Oh my gosh. Oh my
yep,
I was at every one.
yep.
Gosh, that Chuck Mead one. Oh my
I
gosh.
didn't see it.
Oh, loved it. I
Good.
loved it. I loved that band. And I just thought he was really different than some of the other people,
Right,
but and Peter playing with
right.
it.
Kevin, yeah.
Um, what what a nice thing for Athens.
Yeah, yeah.
And what when I worked for Koch Entertainment, which was an independent music
Right.
label and film. And in Nashville, before I ever moved to Athens, I used to call them Nashville moments,
Mhm.
where somebody like Rosie Flores was playing, and she says, "I got a guest coming up here today," and it's Russell Smith from Amazing Rhythm Aces,
Mhm.
who I love that band. I
Mhm.
just loved his voice and everything about it, and I was so excited about seeing him, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is a Nashville moment." There are so many Athens moments
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
and it is so fun to be there when it happens, and so sad when I'm not.
When you miss it,
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
you hear about it
the
later,
what
yeah.
they say, the fear of missing out. I hate it when I'm out of town
Yeah.
and I miss something, and,
No, there's a lot
because
of them. We get spoiled
we get
in
spoiled.
Athens,
We
yeah.
really do, and these guys appear to just love you to death still,
I hope s yeah, I guess so.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
that you were
Yeah, we've been a
their man.
good team.
I think that's wonderful. Do you think all this stuff with Mike Shannon
Oh, yeah.
is
We love it.
I know you do. I mean, it appears that they really do
Well,
love
yeah,
it.
why wouldn't they? This really good band fronted by this really good actor are going around the country playing their songs
I know.
and, celebrating their songs. I
Yes.
mean, it is kind of a cover band or a tribute band. They've kind of run away from both of those labels, but it's very R.E.M. specific. It's very album specific, and they do a really good job. I mean, they play those songs like real pros, and Michael Shannon can be Michael Stipe for 2 hours, and and they're friends. It doesn't hurt that they are, quite a few of the guys in that band that's touring knows the guys in R.E.M. from playing together. Jason Narducci and Mike Mills have made a
Right.
record together. John Stewart plays in Wilco, who we all
Right.
know, and so it's been a lovely thing. And they're going to go play a week's worth of shows in England, Scotland, and Ireland in August.
And you're going.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably going to go.
You have to.
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah.
That's got to be one of the benefits of
But yeah,
that.
we think it's a great adventure in the fact that they're doing it. This will be and they've already said they're going to do next year too. So this will be the third time they've done it. Which I don't know how long they'll keep doing it. They can't do the whole catalog, but it's cool that they've done the first few records.
Oh, I know. I
Yeah,
know. What was it? Saturday night was XTC, the EXTC from XTC band of in the 80s and 90s.
I know XTC, but
Well,
what about him?
Terry Chambers, the drummer, was there with other band
He
members
was where?
at the Foundry.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
And
yeah,
they're calling it EXTC. Oh, I
hmm
didn't know that.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh.
And just the drummer from the original band.
Right, just
Okay.
Terry Chambers.
Okay.
But it's just 3
Yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
and it was so much fun.
No, there's
It
the
was
music
so
for that
much
band is
fun.
great. Yeah.
They're traveling. Evidently they've been here, well, to the States 5 times. Last time it was Atlanta. They went to Atlanta. No, Saturday. So Sunday night was Atlanta. Sunday night was us. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Foundry was
Oh, that's
Sunday
neat. I
night.
didn't even know about it.
Well,
I was
people
out I was
started,
I was out of
even
town.
Dusty Gannon was like, from Vision Video, was like, I just read about this. I couldn't wait to get
Yeah,
down here.
yeah.
And there was a lot of people like that. And Troy, poor thing, he just marketed the hell out of it.
That's great.
But and they started walking up.
Graduation weekend is a busy weekend. There's a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
going on.
Oh, yeah. That's what but
Yeah,
everybody had fun. There was probably a good 80 or so people there,
that's great.
which is on a Sunday night
That's
with the
great.
students gone.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was fun. But I wondered how you felt about that because it seems like you're having a really great
Oh,
time
everybody loves it.
with this
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, absolutely. Anything that keeps music going, keeps people aware of the band. Younger people find out about it for the first time, and 40-watt club's always fun.
Tell me one thing here. This is kind of probably my last thing I want to talk about. What is Athens for you now? What does it mean to you?
Well, it's the town we've made home for uh, more than 40 years. Is where we raised our kids, two daughters. Neither of whom live here now. They're both grown, and one's a teacher and one's a college student up north. But this is still where they come home for the holidays and
Hmm.
sometime in the summer. It's home. It's definitely the home that we have.
And what with all this music here, I mean, is it just am I crazy to say that we are probably the most special place, I think, in the United States?
That I would
Uh,
not go that far, just because there's a bunch of them.
I
I mean,
know.
there's a
I know.
bunch of them. I've never even been to a bunch of great college towns. I do think once you get used to living in a college town,
Yeah.
it's hard not to live in a
Maybe
college
that's what
town.
it is.
I think the fact that there's a university with the constant dynamic of people and arts and visitors and sports and whatever you're into at the university, that's just right here. So I think college towns always seem bigger than they really are. So Athens is a medium-sized city these
I know.
days,
Yeah.
but it seems there's even more going on than you would expect in a town this size.
Culturally
A lot
and
because of the
yeah,
university, a lot
yeah,
because of the music. Um, and yeah, I walk down here. It's from my house. It's about 25 minutes. And of course it's a little hot today to be walking,
yeah.
but it's a bunch of great neighborhoods, and we've had a good life here.
My my
Can't imagine leaving.
yeah, me
Yeah,
neither. My husband would never let me anyway.
yeah,
So,
good. Is he
well,
at
Bertus,
university?
you are very interesting man. You've done some great things, and God bless you because you've done some beautiful things for people, and not just because they were making great music, because your heart told you to.
Well, thank you,
And
thank you.
that's the kind of person I like to be in conversation with and
Well,
know. So now I get to give you hugs and stuff when I see you. Is that
absolutely. Yeah,
okay?
yeah, of
Because
course, of
I
course.
come from a litter,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
gravitate towards
yeah,
that,
yeah,
that heat and stuff, and have to hug.
yeah.
So,
Well, I'm really glad to meet you and meet you again and
and
have
yeah,
the conversation. And
and we'll see each
thanks
other.
for the questions. And yeah, see you around town.
Thank you.
Athens moments.
Yes, thank
Yep.
you.